Rejoice, AI sloppers, because Google is about to give you a brand new tool. All you have to do is upgrade to AI Ultra for $124.99 a month because it's on sale for right now. Normally it's $250. What is Project Genie, you ask? Game devs should be scared out of their minds because this AI tool allows you to use AI to create your own video games. And if the Ubisoft layoffs and restructurings are anything to go by, this is probably the only way that they're going to be able to manage to maintain any kind of a profit margin going forward with all the people they're cutting off or laying off. So we're going to jump right into this. More than a quarter of devs surveyed by the GDC were laid off in the past 2 years, and half of them don't even have a new job. Execs are throwing people overboard and expecting these scuttled ghost ships to keep making them infinite money. And the only way they're going to do that is with Google's new AI, if they want to actually maintain any kind of profitability if they're laying everybody off. But let's jump into these woes real quick and then we'll circle back around to the Google One AI tool. More than a quarter of game devs responding to a new survey said they were laid off in the past 2 years. I'm guessing most of those are probably from Ubisoft. This year's annual State of the Game Industry Survey, which is managed by the Game Developers Conference and surveys more than 2,300 games industry professionals around the world. It asks its respondents a number of questions about layoffs. According to the survey, 17% said they were laid off in the past 12 months, while another 11% said they were laid off in the last 12 months before that, making for a total of 28% when limited to just the U.S. respondents alone. That percentage, when limited to the U.S. respondents, that percentage increases to 33%. The survey also notes that the total number of layoffs could be higher than the survey suggests, as some respondents could have been laid off more than once in the last 2 years, meaning they got laid off, got a new job, and then were fired again, which is horrible, honestly. But it makes sense when you look at games like Expedition 33 that actually used AI. And if they're using AI, they don't need a whole lot of people. Of those who said they had been laid off, around 48% of them said they hadn't found a new job yet. That's 50% of the people. Of the 33% of the people that were laid off in the last 2 years have not been able to find a new job. This wasn't exclusive to those recently let go either. Of those who were laid off 1 to 2 years ago, 36% said they were still looking for a new job. Half of respondents said their current company, or at least the one they most recently worked for, conducted layoffs in the past 12 months. And while 47% said they didn't anticipate any future layoffs at their company in the next 12 months, 23% said they did, and 30% weren't even sure that they were or not. And here's a chart breaking down the reasons the former companies laid off their employees. 43% said budget or restructuring, that would be Ubisoft. 38% said budget cuts. Market conditions was 38%. Canceled projects, 32%. Strategic direction change, 31%. Project completion, 8%. I'm guessing those were contract folks that were there on a temporary basis. Mergers and acquisitions was 6%. Automation and AI implementation, 6%. And that'll probably go up even further, especially as we dig more into this Google project. Tariffs or rising operational costs, 4%. Can you apply tariffs to digital software that doesn't actually even have a physical copy? Other was 6%, and no reasons given was 7%. When asked why they thought the reasons were for such widespread layoffs, a number of respondents gave their own theories under anonymity. Leadership failed to see that the COVID-era boom was not permanent, and the company went on an acquisition spree before being acquired. A senior programmer in India said, "Now, money is a lot tighter because the goldfish with the money once returns yesterday, so they can't funnel it into the current fad, which is generative AI," which we're going to talk about later with the Google plans. Executives who have never actually worked as a dev are pulling up the boards on their ships, throwing people overboard, and expecting these scuttled ghost ships to keep making them infinite money, a former designer in New York said, which is exactly what's going on with Ubisoft in the European countries. They're laying off all of their people, restructuring their organization, and expecting these people that survived the layoffs to do extra work to still be able to produce profitable games. Meanwhile, the owner of an independent studio in Australia said, "We're coming up towards launch, and if sales aren't good enough, there will be layoffs." The situation also affects future developers, as seen by the responses of more than 100 educators who were also surveyed. 60% said they expected the current economic and industry climate to have an impact on how many of their students would get a job in the industry, while a further 27% said they'd already seen an impact, and only 2% didn't foresee any kind of impact at all. Those 2% are naive. There aren't any jobs, one game design student in California responded to the survey. Everyone's getting fired. It's effed. Game developer Farhan Noor, who has been tracking industry job cuts since 2022, estimates that around 8,500 workers were laid off in 22 and 10,500 workers in 23, 14,600 in 24, and 5,300 workers in 2025. With those kind of numbers, it wouldn't surprise me if at least a few people weren't fired every year since 2022 going back to last year, and probably this year coming up in the near future as well. I'd be interested to see that number of people who were laid off more than twice. And video game companies' share prices are dropping because of the Google Project Genie AI. Now we're going to start getting into the Google generative AI issue, which is affecting everybody in the gamer world. Independent folks and people who are just a guy in his garage style making games will probably love this because it reduces the amount of stuff he has to actually go through and track down when he can also get an AI's help. However, professional developers that do this for a living will probably, if this catches on a large scale, those that were laid off will probably find it harder to find a job. A number of video game companies have seen their share prices falling in the wake of Google rolling out their Project Genie. The company announced last week that it had started rolling out a prototype version of Project Genie, an AI tool that lets users generate their own playable worlds. According to Google, users can create worlds by either typing in prompts or uploading images, similar to what you can do with Grok, but Grok doesn't let you create game environments, just images and videos. They can create their character in a similar way as well. Users can also define certain other properties, such as how the character moves or whether the world is explored in first person or third person. As players explore the world, the tool generates it in real time, depending on the actions the player makes and where they move the camera. It sounds like you just give it a prompt and then walk the character around in the world, and then it takes that initial prompt and then builds the world as you explore, which is actually wild to think about that you can actually do that now. Some users have already started sharing videos of their creations on social media, some of which include copyrighted characters. When they say include copyrighted characters, does that mean these people copyrighted the characters they created, or they're using somebody else's intellectual property? Following the rollout of the tool, a number of video game companies on the Nasdaq Stock Exchange saw notable drops in their share prices. The most notable of these drops was that of Unity, which saw its share price close at $38.40. The previous day then plummeted to as low as $27.80 at one point the next day, a drop of 35%. Other drops included CD Projekt, Nintendo, Roblox, and Rockstar parent company Take-Two. Honestly, it wouldn't hurt my feelings if Roblox completely went out of business entirely, but that's for a whole other list of reasons. And Unity, I don't know how to create games really. I've just kind of dabbled in with playing around with my VTuber model, honestly, because I was trying to turn it into a VR chat kind of a character, and I'm still struggling because it's something that I'm learning to do on my own. So there is still kind of a use for Unity, even if they're getting slaughtered by the initial drop of the Google Project Genie. That's not to say that I would ever completely trust a Google product to do something properly. I have a whole list of issues with Google separate from their AI generative models. Pro AI enthusiasts have already started suggesting that should such Project Genie continue to evolve, it could reduce the need for game developers without noting its significant current limitations. I don't know that that'll be on a professionally viable level for a few years, honestly. I think it'll take a while for it to catch up to the way games are currently being made. So I think at least for now, developers are safe, but it does kind of shake up everybody's confidence in current game developers, especially when game developers such as Ubisoft, I'm going to keep coming back to that because I have a whole bunch of hate in my heart for Ubisoft. But when companies like Ubisoft are doing what they're doing, even without the invention of this AI model, I think it's almost a argument for the creation of such a tool to create games. That way people can create their own games and they don't have to worry about the bloated nonsense that companies like Ubisoft put into their games that people no longer want, or even wanted in the first place. However, William Blair, analyst Dylan Becker, told Bloomberg that these concerns were overblown. Evercore ISI analyst Robert Coolberth added that we think the moves we see in gaming stocks today largely discount the importance of creativity and social network effects in open world gaming. The numerous drops in share price across the industry appear to be an immediate reaction to those theories, as investors' initial response seemed to be that such companies could be negatively affected by Google's tech. They could be negatively affected, especially if they choose to not embrace them at all. I think if software companies want to continue growing, at some point they're going to have to embrace the monster and actually work with these generative AI tools if they expect to survive much beyond the next few years. Reacting to his company's large drop in value, Unity CEO Matthew Bromberg posted a message on X stating that the growth of such AI world model creators are a positive for the industry, and that Unity will actually be making use of them rather than competing against them. This is what I was talking about. This man is a forward thinker. I would suspect great things for Unity in the near future, especially if they embrace them as much as this statement seems to claim that they're going to. I think incorporating them into their software that they push out for everybody to use for game creation will actually smooth the creation steps from concept to real-world playable game a lot faster and more streamlined. Advances in large-scale world models, whether developed by partners like Google or others, materially expand the frontier of interactive content creation, he said. These models can generate high-quality, interactive video-like experiences from natural language or minimal input. Today, they are primarily editable through prompting, which limits the level of determinism and precision required for production-grade game mechanics. As a result, those outputs remain probabilistic and non-deterministic. Why do they got to use such big words, making them unsuitable on their own for games that require consistent, repeatable player experiences? That I don't think is entirely true, because if you have seen some of these guys that put out AI videos, like music videos and borderline TV shows or short movies, those guys are able to write prompts, the likes of which I'll never be able to create myself. And I have tried. I do okay with some music, but to be able to put together an actual video, I have problems. I actually have a video posted on my YouTube channel that's an animated music video if you want to check that out. But like I said, it's okay. It's not on the level that I would like it to be. Rather than viewing this as a risk, we see it as a powerful accelerator. Video-based generation is exactly the type of input our AgeNIC AI workflows are designed to leverage, and I probably botched that word. Translating rich visual output into initial game scenes that can then be refined with the deterministic systems Unity developers use today. Honestly, I think that is a great combination of tools, and I think Unity will benefit from this in a way that other companies aren't seeing currently. Our agents already generate high-quality scenes from static video. Interactive, camera-controllable video from world models would further enhance this pipeline and materially improve the fidelity and speed of early-stage content creation. We believe this represents a meaningful step forward for AI-driven development across the industry. Unity's role is to operationalize these advances. Outputs from world models are ingested into Unity's real-time engine, where they are converted into structured, deterministic, and fully controllable simulations within Unity. Creators define physics, gameplay logic, networking, monetization, and live operation systems to ensure consistent behavior across devices and sessions. And honestly, like I was saying, this is cool because if Unity since Unity is able to create amazing backgrounds with just images, if you take those backgrounds and feed those into the AI, I can only imagine the type of background and maps and worlds you'd be able to create for video games. And if you can do the same for characters, which I'm certain that you can, if you're able to combine all of those elements and run it through AI, the level of game that you'd be able to create with just one program would be astronomical. And so I think that if people haven't already jumped on this and started to incorporate the use of these AIs, even if it's just experimental, just to get their feet wet and get familiar with it, I think they're missing out. And in the future, those developers are going to suffer really, really badly. Genie 3 is the general purpose world model. The version they're on is Genie 3, is capable of generating diverse interactive environments. Google is now letting AI Ultra subscribers in the US access it with Project Genie. And that was the opening page that we showed you guys, where it was $150 a month for 3 months. A world model simulates the dynamics of an environment, predicting how they evolve and how actions affect them, while Google DeepMind has a history of agents for specific environments like chess or Go. Building AGI requires systems that navigate the diversity of the real world. The experimental research prototype has you describe your environment, what does your world look like, including how you want to explore it, whether you want to walk or whatever kind of mode of transportation you would like to use, as well as the point of view that you want your character to take, whether that's first person, third person, or some other view like second person over the shoulder, like parrot on a pirate's shoulder kind of a thing. After specifying your character, Project Genie creates a preview image or sketch using a Nano Banana Pro. This lets you preview your world and what it'll look like, and you can modify the image to your preferences before you start creating the world. The Create World users limited to 60-second sessions, so you can only play in your little sandbox world for 60 seconds. The photorealistic worlds are in 720 resolution, while you get interaction rates of 20 to 24 frames per second. So it's not the greatest, but it is only just like a proof of concept style beta, it seems like, which is fine, especially if they're just sampling it out to people. When you move, Genie 3, first previewed in August, generates the path ahead in real time based on the actions you take. Google is simulating the physics and interactions with breakthrough consistency. You can adjust the camera as you interact with the world with the ability to download videos of your walkthrough. Another feature lets you remix your worlds so you can regenerate them in a different way, and you'll probably end up with a different thing. Google also, other than the 60-second limitation, Google also warns that the generated worlds will not look completely true to life because it's AI and nothing in AI ever actually looks true to life, but neither do video games, so that's okay. And they'll always adhere to the prompts or images that you feed it. So if you feed it crappy prompts, you're going to end up with a crappy world for 60 seconds. Characters can sometimes be less controllable or experience higher latency in control. That's to be expected because even online games have that happen to them. Google is working to improve Project Genie with promptable events that change the world as you explore it. So as you're exploring your world, you can throw in a different prompt and it will have the game do something with that prompt to affect the world. Like as you're walking down the road, you prompt something to happen as you go around a corner and bang, you have bandits approach you, or the weather changes as you're walking along because you can prompt for sunrises, sunsets, nighttime, weather, things like that. You can also prompt the character for things and objects as well. The demo will allow Google to better understand how people use world models in many areas of both AI research and generative media, videos and music. Access begins rolling out today. Our goal is to make these experiences and technical accessible to more users. More broadly, world models are part of Google DeepMind AGI mission, simulating real-world scenarios and practical applications for robotics and modeling animation and fiction. So I think this is pretty darn cool, and I do know of a few AI guys that would probably dig this kind of information. In fact, I'm pretty sure some of them have actually already started using some of it. So if you're into creating games or are interested in it, I suggest you at least look into this a little farther, and then you can create your own games and you don't have to depend on companies like Ubisoft and their horrible horrible output. And this one says it's $250 a month, so that $150 that I showed you earlier was a sale price. You also have to live in the United States, and you have to be 18 years or older. At launch, Project Genie offers 3 different modes: world sketching, exploration, and remixing. The first sees Google's Nano Banana Pro. That is such a hard string of words to put together. Model generating the source image. Genie 3 will use it to create the world you will later explore, and at this stage you can describe your character, define the camera perspective, and how you want to explore the world. Before you can jump into the model's creation, Nano Banana Pro will sketch what you're about to see so you can make tweaks before you actually jump in. So it's like a preload, like when you go into like a VR state where it has the loading screen and it looks like you're just standing in a dark room. It's also possible to write your own prompts for worlds others have used Genie to generate. One thing to keep in mind though is that Genie 3 is not a game engine. While its outputs look like a game, it can simulate physical interactions. There aren't traditional game mechanics here. Generations are also limited to 60 seconds, as is the presentation, which is capped at 24 frames per second and 720p. Still, if you're an Ultra subscriber, this is a cool opportunity to see the bleeding edge of what DeepMind has been working on over the past couple of years. And so this is where that collaboration with Unity would come in handy, because Unity actually will create the games, so you can take all of the prompts feeding to AI, which will then feed into Unity, and you can actually create your game without any real problems and without too much of involving other things and products and people, especially if you're a small operation of like 1 to 2 to 3 people. Genie is only accessible from a dedicated web app, and it won't be plugged into the Gemini or website. So it's a special website that you have to go through for the AI Ultra subscription. And as always, be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more gaming news updates. Thanks for watching. Drop a like and subscribe, and I'll catch you all in the next video.